Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Getting Real with Paula. My name is Paula Alphonse, and I am a transformational facilitator. For those joining us for the first time in a while, I would mention that we are continuing on our series on uplifting individuals and communities. And tonight we are speaking to Sarah Onyango, who will share with us some of her journey and community involvement. And I am so excited for this conversation because now I'm gonna let her talk about it. So, Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and your involvement in community?
Yeah, so I'm actually a translator. That's my background, and so I translate for a TV station, a channel, and that's the work that enables me to do a lot of my volunteer work. I am divorced. I don't have any kids, which is why I can do a lot of the stuff that I've done over the last 25 years or so. I am from Kenya originally, and I have been Canadian for over 25 years. So, but I consider myself a Québéco-Canado-Kenyano citoyen du monde, like a citizen of the world, pretty much, because I grew up in Europe and I grew up in continental Africa. I studied in France and I studied here as well. So, yeah, I've grown up, lived, and worked in all kinds of different places that have made me into the global nomad and global citizen that I am today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We spoke before, and there's something that stayed with me about the way you came about doing community involvement. Can you share with our audience what actually brought you to community media and what kept you there over the years?
Okay, I'll start with my community involvement first. Like I said, I'm divorced. So I was married before, and I was married to somebody of European extraction, Québécois, and we moved to Gatineau in the early 90s. And back then, that neighborhood was fairly new. And at some point, I looked around and I realized that there were no other Black people around me. And it wasn't until we moved there that I realized just how much that I missed having people who looked like me around me. I mean, I have friends in the region, but all of them were in Ottawa and in the suburbs and busy raising their families, and they just didn't really have time for me. And we only had one Black neighbor. She lived next door, but she very quickly moved. So I was the only one. And in my workplace, I didn't see Black people. I just didn't really have a lot of Black people in my life. So I started wondering, where are all the Black people? So one day I happened to walk by a place called the Harambe Center, which was in existence for a good decade. And in fact, the Harambee Center was one of several Harambee centers across Canada that had been founded in the 80s, I believe. And so I saw these Black people and I thought, oh, there's Black people at that building. Let me go in and see what they do. So I found out that they offered all kinds of programs for newcomers, for youth, and they also were running a community paper called The Drum out of that center. So I, quickly sort of made connections with people there. And before I knew what was happening, I was volunteering there and I was really enjoying it. And that was back in 1993. That was back in 1993. And around the same time, I heard about an organization called Black History Ottawa. And I said to myself, what do you mean Black history? There's Black history in Canada? Okay, so can you believe I did 3 years of high school here in Ottawa when I was here with my parents? And I had no clue that, Black people had been in Canada for several centuries. And so when I saw Black History Ottawa, I thought, okay, let me attach myself to that organization because I might learn something about who we are and who we have been in this country called Canada. So I volunteered at the Harambee Center and I volunteered at Black History Ottawa at the same time. And by the way, I still volunteer with Black History Ottawa all those decades later.
Mm-hmm.
So you were asking about community media. So community media actually had started before I came back to Canada because there was a lot of back and forth between France, Kenya, Canada. When I was in France, I was doing my master's in linguistics in a program specializing in the teaching of French as a foreign language. And as part of our program, we had to create radio capsules for learners. And we produced all of those radio capsules at a campus radio station. And I really enjoyed that. And I thought to myself, where has this been all my life? Because as I had said in our prior conversation, I had decided when I was 6 years old that I was going to be a foreign correspondent. I had just made up my mind at age 6, sitting in the family room with my dad, next to my dad, watching news. For whatever reason, the 6-year-old kid was really addicted to news. Maybe part of it was the fact that it allowed me quality time with my dad, who was really busy. He was a diplomat. So sometimes he was away for weeks on end or in meetings or just away. And so this watching of news and him explaining current events and politics and who's Mandela and what is apartheid and explaining to me the film, the series Roots, because that's where I saw Roots. That just gave me that awakened the passion for media, news reporting, etc. And at age 6, I had said, okay, that's it. That is my career. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's such an early calling. So it's interesting because there are things that have a way of shaping us very young, and we carry on with those activities for the rest of our journey. So I understand that the work that you do is volunteer. So volunteer basis, and regardless of some of the perks, there has to be this less glamorous side to it as well. Can you share with us some of the highlights, but also the drawbacks that you might have encountered over the years?
Well, I like to focus on the positive, and you know me, I love people. I'm very curious about people. I'm very interested in. I'm just like you. I'm interested in finding out, what are their passions? What makes them want to get up every day? What really makes them go further, harder for a certain cause, etc. So I love being in situations where I can meet even more new people. And so, for example, being an MC for events, that's awesome because you not only get to meet these people, but you're also involved in, the planning of events, putting events together, and also ensuring the success of an event. Because at one point I was the go-to MC because my MO really is about the success of the event. It's not about me. It's not me. It's not, oh, I want to be on stage and I want to hog the mic and I want to blah, blah, blah. No, I consider myself like a traffic director, like direct all the traffic on stage, get it on the stage on time, get it off the stage on time, and fill in where you need to fill in. Just make sure everything is smooth and everybody's happy and everybody's engaged and everybody's enjoying it, etc. So, being, a community facilitator, moderator, MC, or whatever, that has enabled me to indulge in that particular passion. In my community work, I've been lucky. I've been mentored by some incredible people, and one of those people, in fact, who pretty much changed, made me up my game in terms of moderating and emceeing, etc., is my beloved late mentor, John Dennison. I will talk about John Dennison all day and all night, and how that one man had been observing me in the community, just struggling along, little old me, just trying to learn as I went along, and dealing with all kinds of really unprofessional situations, and getting walked all over, and getting exploited, quite frankly, exploited, because remember, all of this stuff is unpaid. And he just decided, okay, enough. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to tell this young lady there's a way to do it, to make her, to bring out her true value, and to ensure that she grows in that role of a community facilitator, MC, etc. So he just walked up to me and said, okay, let's have lunch, and I'm gonna just tell you a few things, because this man, John Dennison, had been around Ottawa. In fact, he was one of the founders of that Honorees Center in Ottawa. He had been watching me back then. I had no idea. But so he just sat me down and said, listen, it's been so many years and you're still doing the same thing, and you're still dealing with these same people and same organizations, and I'm not seeing any progress, and I'm frustrated for you. And I was kind of, okay, who are you? And why the interest? And what are you doing? And no, he genuinely saw something. And so he decided to start providing opportunities for me to up my game. So he worked in the government. He was connected with different embassies and some very highly placed people. So, for example, he started me emceeing government events, national government events. And at one point, I started traveling with these events. He was one of the founders of the Matthew DeCosta Challenge. That would be held annually as part of the Government of Canada's Black History Month campaign. And so he started making sure that I got hired, because he was tired of seeing some white people moderating Black History Month events. And he was just very annoyed by that. And he thought to himself, well, I know somebody who is bilingual and who can do this really well, who is disciplined, who has class, who I would not be embarrassed to propose as a, potential person for this role. Let me go do this. Next thing you knew, I was in Halifax, I was in Quebec City, I was out west, I was here, I was there, And so this man single-handedly took me from this level to that level. So he had a big role to play in that. So, that was exciting. And I also got the opportunity to MC embassy events, especially the African Union gala, which is an amazing, incredible gala put together by all the African ambassadors and high commissioners who are accredited to Canada. And so I did that for almost 10 years. And I've also gotten to MC the SADC Group of Nations celebration. And I've taken part in, celebrations like the 25th anniversary of the OECS, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, even though I'm not Caribbean, but I mean, so that is, it's very, it's validating, it's satisfying, it's interesting, it gets you out of your regular 9 to 5. Yeah, but the downside, you asked about the downside. It's tiring, that's for sure. It helped over all those years that I had no husband and no kids, no pets. So I could just up, leave, go, and then come back when I was done. And, I made my own schedule. But at the same time, it's hard to have a personal life because not everybody is going to tolerate that you are away that much, that you are a public figure, because that's another thing. All of a sudden, I was this public figure. I didn't sign up to be a public figure. That's, me, I like being in the background, and I only like to be on stage when I am, quote unquote, directing the traffic that's happening on stage, right? But next thing you know, oh, everybody knows my name. My name is out there. People stop me in the street, quite literally. You get tapped on your shoulder in the bus. You can't be in an elevator without somebody saying, aren't you? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so this having no privacy thing, no, that's not the best. Not only that, it's like being Oprah, but without her bank account, without her. Okay, that's my nickname for myself is Oprah without the bank account. Right? So yeah, so there's the fatigue issue, the scheduling issue, because sometimes you have to juggle several events in the same day. And it got to the point where I would end up using my vacation time from work to be able to fulfill all of these community engagements. And another thing that's unfortunate as well, when you've done the kind of work that I'm doing, is you have haters. You have haters. You have people who will talk about you. You have people who don't like it, they don't even know you, but they've already decided that, how come she has the spotlight? She doesn't deserve the spotlight. Why can't I get the spotlight? What's all that about? And they know nothing about how I got where I got, and they know nothing about why I do what I do. All they see is, I want what she's got, but I don't want to work for it. I just want what she's got. So if I can't have what she's got, let me go and start saying some stuff to make things hard for her for whatever reason. So that's unpleasant. And let's see. Well, I had to learn to be super organized. I wasn't all that organized before. And I really was not, in terms of, I just had my routine and that was it. But then all of a sudden I was, quote unquote, public figure and in-demand moderator and MC. So all of a sudden Sarah had to have, time management skills, organizational skills that I hadn't necessarily cultivated.
What I'm hearing is there's a side that may look to the outside that it's very glamorous,
Yeah.
but on the personal side, there are costs. And as you say, there's costs in terms of my energy. There's
Mm-hmm.
costs in some of these events. I have to, kind of
Mm-hmm.
prepare myself to look a certain way. So, which means wardrobe becomes expensive. The
Yeah, I
moving
forgot
from
to
a
mention
job
the
to the
cost.
other activity. Yeah,
Yeah. And by the
it's
way,
yeah.
I don't have a wardrobe stipend. So everything you see,
Yeah,
no, everything you see
it's
is,
mine. I pay
it's
for it.
me funding that with my day job,
Hmm.
right?
No, and oftentimes, and we're talking about the obvious on in this one, but the less obvious is, as you say, when you have multiple
Mm-hmm.
events taking place about around the same time. So let's just say Black History Month, and
Oh
there's
boy.
maybe 2 or 3 events, uh,
Yeah.
sometimes in the week, sometimes on the weekend. So which means I do nothing else on top of whatever workload I'm carrying at work. So it doesn't look like it's a lot sometimes to people, but on an individual basis, I can totally appreciate the energy. And I do thank you for that, because I've been seeing you for years, and I kept saying, I don't know how she does it. I just don't know how she does it. What would be the life lesson that you've learned through this volunteering as well as the community activism?
Oh my gosh. There's so many, many things. But one of the big things, I was thinking about this the other day. One of the big things I've learned is get to know people,
Mhm.
you know, get to know people, because you never know what their story is, and you never know what jewels, what nuggets can come out of your interactions with them. So, for example, I told you about my beloved mentor, late
Mhm.
mentor. And I mean, he taught me so much about activism, and how to do it quietly, how to do it discreetly, but how to do it effectively. He
Mhm.
also taught me about the importance of, you know, to whom much is given, much is required. So if you
Mhm.
find yourself in a particular position, so for example, over the years through my participation in different events and organizations, I built up a huge network that goes beyond the borders of this country, all the way to the United States. He taught me how to use your network for good, right?
Yes.
So my nickname that I was given by another beloved mentor of mine, who thank God is still with us, is the connector.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because, listen, from my diplomat father, I learned about how to, connect people up strategically. You listen to a conversation, you hear that so and so is looking for, someone with these skills, or someone with this kind of access. And then you're like, I know someone like that. Let me see if I can assist. And there you go. So I sort of made a habit of connecting people up in different ways. And so, yeah, listen to people's stories, get to know who they are. And the other thing I learned is people just want to be seen and appreciated. They
Mhm.
want to be seen and appreciated. And you know what? That's another reason I'm in community media. I'm in media. Because if you watch my shows, and you've been on my show on
Yeah.
Rogers TV here in Ottawa, and if you listen to any of the 3 radio shows that I do at CHUO 89.1 FM, I love interviews, and I love showcasing people, showcasing their talent and showcasing their contributions. That's also another reason why volunteering for Black History Ottawa has been so fulfilling for me, because it enables me to go out there and do presentations about Black Canadians who are overlooked or not very well known, right? So yeah, I'd say those two things. Get to really, really know people and their stories, and don't ever forget, people really just want to be appreciated and seen.
Yeah. And I like what you said, because it brings me back to the community media from the perspective that as a community we are often overlooked.
Yes.
So maybe Black History Month there be a little more visibility of some of us on some mainstream channels, but
Mm.
otherwise it's as though
Yep. The
no
rest of the
no
year we don't
no
exist.
no see. So
Exactly.
the work that you do not only allows us as a community to hear of other people doing great things within our community, but also exposes that work that is being done to an audience that might not have even considered looking
Exactly.
towards that group. Because if you're
Exactly.
not in some ways part of that community, how do you get to those stories? Because you don't know the people.
Hmm.
So yeah, definitely the knowing the people makes a difference.
And speaking of that, I found out over the years that, for example, mainstream media tune in to our show Black on Black
Oh,
to find, yes, they do, to find out, you know, who's who in the Black community, who's doing what are Black people in Ottawa talking about, thinking about, worried about, that maybe we should cover. And as a result, I've become friends with producers at CBC Radio and some at Radio Canada, based on, them sort of tuning in and cluing into, you know, the fact that there are a lot of stories that they are not getting because the community doesn't necessarily trust them or doesn't really feel seen or appreciated by them. So, as a connector, another thing that I have done is I've become like a human Rolodex for the mainstream media here in Ottawa.
yeah,
Seriously, they have
I
me
can
on
see.
speed
I can
dial.
still see it. I'm not even gonna say anything because I hear you.
They
Mhm.
have me on speed dial. And I'm not even saying that to boast. It's like, I get this call. Do you know someone from this part of Africa who could speak about? And I'm like, okay, are you serious right now? I'm from East Africa. You're talking about North Africa. I know exactly three people from there, and two of them are in Montreal. What are you talking about? But I will help you find that person, if even if I don't know them personally. And usually it works out.
Yeah,
Use your network for good.
I hold on, because you've mentioned a little something, but we're gonna come back to it. Tell me about your stance on Black Canadian history and
My,
why it is so important to you.
my stance,
Mhm.
Black Canadian history is important to me because I am Canadian and I'm Black. And I'm kind of tired of Canadians in general and Black Canadians in particular always feeling like they need to go across the border
Yep.
to validate the Black experience in this part of North America.
Mhm.
Okay? Some of it is similar, yes. Some of it is distinct. You know, the Black community up north, whether it's in Northern Ontario or up in
Mhm.
Nunavut, do you know that there's a Black community in Nunavut?
Yep.
Yes. Okay? Right. The Black community out west, all the way out in British Columbia. That's not the same as the Black community across the border in California. That's not the same Black community. And also, in Canada, we live in a mosaic. It's not a melting pot. So it's not like everybody gets put in some sort of grinder and everything comes out beige at the other end, or one shade of black in terms of Black experience. No, Canada is made up of many Black experiences, And I like in Canada that we can celebrate all of the Black
Yeah.
experiences. You're not less Canadian because, you know, your last name is Nigerian. You came in a specific wave of Black migration that is not the same wave as the early Black settlers in Nova Scotia or in Southern Ontario or in Western Canada or in the prairies. You're Canadian and you're Black. All Black experiences matter. All Black experiences are valid. And I like that in Canada we can celebrate that, right? But I find for me it's important um, to do this work of promoting the Canadian Black experience so that our kids, our young people, grow up understanding that they are part of a continuum of Black experience that started over 400 years ago. People, we Black people have been here in some cases way before some white people showed up. Yet you're going to get some Canadians of European ancestry telling a Black person, go back to your country. Go back to what country if you are the descendant of a loyalist, of the Black loyalists who settled in the Maritimes in the 1780s? Hello, go back to what country? This is my country. Your last name is Ukrainian. Y'all came here in the 1800s. I'm sorry. You go back to your country. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, yeah, but I can say that.
Yeah.
I can say that because I went to the trouble of learning about this Black experience and all the different things that happened. I don't know everything, but I have an idea. And I really, truly understand that there are several Black experiences. There were different waves, but all of those waves have led us to where we are today. So, for example, if you are a Black immigrant and you showed up here 10 years ago from your African country, but then you come here and then all of a sudden there's all these dynamics, all these racial dynamics that are just completely foreign to you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a sense of the history of Blacks in Canada, the history that preceded you, you're going to be so totally confused and discouraged. You're not going to understand. And also, you're not going to be able to deal very well with the reality, right?
Yeah.
You can only deal with what you understand and what you know. You can only deal well, right?
Yeah.
And it also helps to diffuse some tensions because, you know, everybody talks about Black unity. No,
No.
there is not the Black unity. So let's just put that aside. That's not happening. I would prefer Black understanding and Black collaboration. Black unity, yeah, what does that mean? Right? And I also do this work showcasing and promoting our Canadian Black history so that subsequent waves of Black migration can appreciate the struggles and the sacrifices that were made by those who preceded us. So, for example, as a Black person from continental Africa who showed up 5 years ago, you have the Canadian Charter of Human Rights, and you can point to that and say, hey, you can't be denying me um, um, a roof. You can't be denying me lodging because I'm Black, as per the charter. Yeah, but the charter didn't happen by itself. Some Black people were in there fighting for human rights and fighting to desegregate public spaces and public facilities so that you can show up and enjoy all of this, you know? So for me, it's important to make sure that all of us are grounded in our history on this turtle island. And also, we need to understand that we are settlers like some white people were settlers, okay? right?
And I like what you're saying from the perspective that I'm a firm believer that if you don't know where you're from, you'll be repeating the same mistakes that people
Yeah,
before have made. So the
absolutely.
idea is each generation is meant to lift the bottom of the conversation a little higher.
Exactly.
So if, as you said, people come here and they see things they don't understand, at least there's someone or there's a community group that can go to and get a better understanding as to what is happening. I
Hmm.
was speaking to a lady one day, and she's of African descent, and she said something that to me was so profound, but we forget about those things. She said, "Until I came to North America, I never knew that people thought that African were slaves." Because that's not what I saw around me. The people around me were not slaves. So it's this part where how do we realize the history that we have to tell our kids and also help them understand, though it might not fit neatly in my personal gene, it still fits to the larger story for the group.
Hmm.
So yeah, definitely. And I laugh because sometimes I go to the States and people make comments about Black Canadians, and it's as though they're Black people in Canada. And I'm thinking, I can't, excuse
Yeah,
me, excuse me.
yeah.
Everyone is all over the world. There's Asians in Africa, there's Africans in China. We're all over. For nowadays, that people would make those comments, you're still debating what have you not been watching around? So those are part to me of elevating those conversation and let it be seen not as unusual, but as the norm. That's the norm everywhere.
Hmm.
So if you know me, you know I'm all about boundaries.
Oh boy.
So I'm gonna ask you,
Hmm.
what boundary that you have implemented, be it in your personal or your professional or your volunteer life, that has created the most personal growth or space for you?
The integrity piece. And again, this is my beloved mentor who taught me about boundaries based on integrity, you know, knowing what my values are and what I absolutely will not do. Oh my God, you would be surprised at who has asked me to MC what. And I've had to sit down and say,
What?
okay, so this is who I am. These are my values. I'm sorry, no, that doesn't go with my values.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah.
At first, it was difficult for me to say no because that's another problem when you're so visible and so public and you're nice and you smile and you're a people pleaser because that's how I grew up, the people pleaser. And I think a lot of women are like that, people pleaser. It's hard to say no, no, no. Thank God for this mentor who came into my life and said, hello, it's okay to say no, especially if what you're being asked violates fundamentally who you are and what you believe, right? So, for example, I am not going to go and do anything that's going to make my Black people look bad.
Mhm.
So, if you're going to ask me to do something where, Black people will be demeaned or minimized or disrespected, goodbye. Bye, Felicia. I am not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. No, I'm not. And my other nickname is Mama Africa because I'm all about, putting the African continent in a good light. Again, I'm my father's daughter in terms of always represent what is good and what is best about our beloved continent. And that includes saying no to people who want to showcase the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Right? So don't ask me to be a panelist in anything that has to do with, why are Black people why are they so poor? Why is there so much gang violence? No, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Ask me about, who are your brilliant scientists on the continent? What innovations are happening that mainstream Canadians should know about? What are the opportunities, the business opportunities? Who are the incredible creators, etc.? Ask me that. Yes. Right?
Totally agree. I think it's about understanding our
Yeah.
own inner compass.
Yes.
And once that takes
Exactly.
place, it's a lot easier to say, yeah, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
walk on by, and
Yeah.
then people end up understanding that there's certain things, because sometimes there's those implicit bias that we think might make great story, and in your mind it's like, no, no, we're not doing that. We've done this before, ain't gonna happen again.
Right.
So, and knowing that you don't want to be part of that game.
Yeah.
So what would be a key message that you would want to leave to the next generation of community activists?
Know why you're there.
Yeah.
Know why you're doing what you're doing. Are you doing it so you can get likes on your social media, or are you doing it to just get attention and then you're going to move on as soon as you feel you've collected enough followers so you can go and start a YouTube channel and monetize that? Is that what you're doing? If that's what you're doing, leave. Go. Because that's not what that's for. Okay? So know why you're there.
Yeah.
Why are you there? Really? And knowing why you're there requires knowing yourself and what's important to you. One. Two, once you know what cause you want to take up, look at other people who have been involved in the cause before you. Because one thing I'm finding about some young activists, sometimes I'm just amused because, they will talk as if, oh, nobody's ever done this before. And it's like, okay, no offense, but I'm old enough to be your grandmother, actually. And I can tell you for a fact, and I can name you 20 people who've been doing this and who did this before me. So this whole sort of, uh, what is it? Want to be pioneer mindset? Zero. Don't do that. Do your research. Do your research. Some of these young people, I'm always surprised at how they didn't even Google to find out who had done such and such initiative or program or whatever before. Do your research. Don't be lazy. Do your research. Find out who has done what. Am I reinventing the wheel? If I want to reinvent the wheel, how can I reinvent it better? But how do you know how to reinvent it better if you don't go and research what was already done? Right? But also, please, young people, please respect those who came before you. Please have respect. Yes, you have more technology than they did. You have more access than they did. You might even have more, vocabulary, etc. But respect that work. Respect the work. Even if you don't respect the people, respect the work. Build on that work. That's how you get to be a good activist. Know who came before you, what they did, where they may have gone wrong, what their successes were, what worked, what could still work, and oh my goodness, don't make it about you. Stop it with the ego. It's not about you. if you've taken up a cause, it's the cause. It's not you, it's the cause. So this whole thing around worshiping, leaders. I love Stacey Abrams. I love her to death. The lady in Georgia who turned
Yeah.
Georgia blue and who's about to be helping people turn Texas blue and turn the whole South blue. But the humility that lady has, humility, not that is key. Humility. Okay? Don't make it about you. Be humble, be willing to learn, and be willing to be taught. I was willing to be taught, and I got me an incredible mentor who was with me for 15 years before we lost him, who I just learned so much from just by listening and following his guidance. So, I mean, if you keep all those in mind, young people, you will attract the resources, you will attract the context, you will attract the allies that you need. And the recognition will just come by itself. You don't have to be running up and down after it. All of this YouTube stuff and the clicks and the Instagram and the selfie thing and the look at me at a protest. And you went to the protest, but did you go to City Hall after when they had the meeting about the police budget? Do you know what defund the police actually means? Have you looked it up? Have you talked to, for example, the leaders at 613-819 Black Hub who actually know what that means and who actually do go to all these meetings? Are you politically engaged? Are you a citizen who participates fully in the life of your city, your province, your country?
I love what you're saying because there's this thing, and I'll say the first thing first. Uh, there's a generation right now, and this is the society, the way we've been raising those kids with instant reality TV. Everybody is into instant gratification, and the social media is definitely pushing towards that. But when we're talking community involvement, community building, community engagement, it's a long-term game. It's not a short-term game. So it's understanding that when you go into it, you have to have a vision that will take a certain time before it actualizes itself. Things don't happen overnight.
No.
And sometimes when I'm young, when I want to see results right away, I might miss great opportunity. I might miss great conversation. And maybe I might have been a leader that just stepped away before the good news came. So it's
Mm-hmm.
understanding those elements. Talking
Mm-hmm.
about that, there's something I want to read to you. A few weeks ago, we had Sabine Daniel on the show,
Oh,
and
I
she
love
mentions,
Sabine.
yeah, she mentions you.
That's
So
my
here's what
girl.
what she wrote me. There are two things Sarah Onyango told me to do in my teens, that I really incorporated as my value pillars through my life and my career. One, document everything that you do because people might not believe you. On top of it, as Black people, we often fail to document what we do. And as a
Mm-hmm.
result, we become invisible in
Yes.
terms of the legacy that we're trying
Mm-hmm.
to build and the history as well. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing, it's important to give back to your community so you can also strengthen and help them rise to greater heights.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what she said that you taught her. And she also said, I don't think I ever told her about this. And I'm like, okay, I'll tell her. And now it'll be on social media so they'll know.
I
She could
appreciate
not
it.
be here today to
Yeah.
share that directly, but I couldn't not tell
I really appreciate it. I love Sabine to pieces, and there are other Black women especially, in this business, because it's a very tough business
Mhm.
for us, female and Black. Um, I really admire her strength and her perseverance, herself and Barbara Laurenstein and, Maxime Bertrand and all of these. Michael Jean. Michael Jean was a role model to me, and I told her as
For
much
many.
when I emceed her first major Black History Month event after she was installed as Governor General. Was an event called Encre Noire, I believe it was, and it was a celebration of Black literary excellence in the diaspora. And Madame la Gouverneure Générale was and I was so in awe, I kind of lost my speech. And when I was able to get near her, I said to her, "You have no idea what you did in 1995 when you appeared on Radio Canada. Actually, it was RDI, and she was anchoring all of the coverage of the
Mhm.
UN Women's Conference in Beijing. Like, she anchored many, many hours of it, which I still have on VHS tape. And I told her I saw this one Black woman on French Canadian TV, and I said, "Oh my, there might be a space for me after all." In 95, she actually had tears. She
Mhm.
couldn't believe it. And I sort of feel the same way about what you just said that Sabine told you. You never know who's watching and who you are inspiring.
Mhm.
All the more reason why you should always make sure you carry yourself with integrity, that you are authentic, and that
Mhm.
you do good with the access and the networks that you have, because you never know.
And that was also a beautiful conversation we had with Sabine. And I have to say, this whole adventure through getting real with Paula, I have met some wonderful people. I don't even have words in the sense of all the people and what they're contributing to the greater good. And to me, that restores my faith in humanity,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
sometimes it feels as though everything has to be an exchange of money. And then there's
Mm.
people that
Mm-hmm.
actually show you, no, it's way more than that. And it's about building
Yes.
communities, it's about building lives, it's about creating possibilities for the people coming after us.
Yes.
So, enough preaching. How can people get in contact with you or hear about some of those things you're involved in?
Oh my. Okay. Well, I have there's a website I created called Black Ottawa 411 because we still don't have a Black community center. So I figured, let me just create community virtually. And this was before, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. So Black Ottawa 411, you can go there and see different activities and events and people, etc. I also do, well, hopefully we'll get back to regular production. Rogers TV, Cable 22, a show called Font on From. You can see old episodes on YouTube. But where I really, really live is on radio at CHUO
Yes.
89.1 FM. I've been there for over 20 years. I love it, and I'm not going anywhere. Uh, Mainly on Black on Black. That's where we do the talk uh, radio. So yeah, I'm
Many
also on Facebook.
people,
Pardon?
I would say many people wake up on those
On
Saturday
Saturdays
mornings
at
to
11.
your voice and those of your colleagues. And it's
Adrian,
just like, ooh, I'm
Patricia,
going back home
Jackie,
for a couple of
and
hours.
Denise.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yes.
Yeah. So
Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for sharing
thanks for the
your wisdom
invitation.
and your journey.
Yeah,
And hopefully, you get to inspire way more people still moving forward.
I hope so. I
Yeah,
hope so.
that's what we hope.
Yeah.
Do something so that the next generation go even farther than we've been.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
So it's like Star Trek to go
Yes,
beyond where we've ever been. So yeah,
exactly.
So thank you again.
Thanks for the invitation.
My pleasure.